Hello everyone, I am Aya Godlove Akoni, a student from the Center for Cybersecurity and Mathematics, Year 4 from the University of Bamenda. And in this session, I'm going to be taking you through identity and access management concepts in Linux systems. And the whole objective or the whole point of this video is to apply these identity and access management concepts to secure our systems and to configure them such that specific users have access to access to specific resources at specific times and for specific reasons. So we are going to go to the next phase, which is actually doing what we have explained in action, implementing these concepts using commands to achieve and secure our systems. So follow me. Okay, so welcome back again to the next first session of our work. And like I said here, we are not just going to be talking, but we are going to be talking and doing uh, these activities using these concepts we just mentioned of identity and access management to secure our Linux systems. And in the process, we're going to discover many tools, many commands. And don't worry, I'll do my best to explain step by step what each command is for and what the tools are for. And coming to the main thing, so here in this session, we are going to assign limited sudo privileges. And to achieve this, we need several users in our systems. In our virtual machine, I'm using the AlmaLinux 10 virtual machine. AlmaLinux is a Linux distribution. Yes, and we're going to be using this for these exercises. And here we're going to create several users. I'm going to create 3 users. And on these users, I'm going to apply, grant them different privilege levels. I'm going to grant them different privilege levels so that we can, at the end of the day, see who can do what time can one do what, and so on. So the whole concept is to create a scenario where we can see how these concepts are important. So and also we are going to be seeing a lot of commands, and not to keep us waiting, let us go into the real thing. So the first thing we need to do, like I mentioned earlier, is to create several users. So we are going to create several users. You can call them different names from your end. So I'll call my user 1, I'll call him Lionel, it's a lady. And my user 2, I'll call Caitlin, it's a lady as well. My user 3, I'll call Maggie, it's a lady as well. So, and when we've created users, there's another thing to do. We need to assign this user passwords. So yeah, I'm going to assign Lionel a password. I will not respect all the laws just to keep it short and fast. So I'll do same for the next user, Caitlin. I'm going to do so for the next user. So basically what I've done is initially we created our users using the sudo user add and the username. So basically the sudo command here simply gives us root privileges to be able to do system level operations. So and user add is a command that adds the user to our system, and we have to provide a username for it. So now we simply did the same thing sudo, but now we replace user add with user passd. So we are assigning the password to a certain user. So we have successfully created 3 users, And now we want to go now into the process where we begin to assign privileges on different users. And the next command I want to call our attention to is the vi sudo. That's how you spell it. And if you check the manual for this command, you're going to learn a lot about this command. It tells us that it's for to edit the sudoers file. The sudoers file is basically in Linux. A sudoers file in Linux is basically the configuration file that defines who can use sudo. Remember, I said sudo was the command that gives us root privileges. So this file determines who can use sudo. It does not just end there, and what commands are they allowed to run with elevated root privileges. So it's very important and it's obvious. So before you give power to someone, you must make sure that he's still under your control. You must make sure that you have a rigid system that can protect him from the power he has and protect others from the power he has, because as we used to hear, to whom much power is given, there's much responsibilities. With much powers comes much responsibilities. So basically, this file handles uh, who has the power and what they can do with the power, the sudo file, and it's located in the /etc directory. So more to that, they say the sudo edits the vi sudo edits the sudo file in a safe fashion. Yes, unlike the using the nano, unlike using the vim, unlike using the gedit to edit files, those are not secured methods. So the concept of using this command is vi sudo is to edit this file in a safe fashion, because this file is a configuration file, it's a critical file, and the moment you make a mistake with it, you can expose your computer to so many vulnerabilities, or you can break even your computer security by yourself. So it's important to use this command. So when you do an error, it's going to alert you that there's an error and you need to correct it. So another thing it does, it locks the sudo file against multiple simultaneous edits, performs very basic validity checks, and checks for syntax errors before installing the edited file. So there's more to that, you can read at your own leisure. So we are going to proceed. So like I said, we are going to use this command. It comes in very handy. And the first exercise in this lab is we are assigning limited sudo privileges. So remember, we just created users. So the next thing we are going to do is to access the vi sudo command so that we can configure it to our taste. So when you open that, remember this is vi sudo. It's not, it is vi sudo and it's editing the sudoers file already. This is the sudoers file you are seeing. Remember, you see sudo allows particular users to run various commands. The root users without needing that. So we have asked, we did sudo vi sudo, and the vi sudo in turns opens the sudo file. So now, unlike nano, unlike vim, unlike gedit, the way in which we can use this editor is different. So first of all, first thing we're going to do is that we are going to look for the storage alias, the command storage alias. So if we are starting from the first line, we go gradually. You see the command alias networking, you see the command alias software service locate. This is our our storage command alias. So, and here to insert something or to edit something. Okay, so like I was saying, we're locating the alias, the command alias storage, and like I said, this is unlike any other editor, so you have special commands. So to edit this file, we take I. When you press I, it's indicating an insert. So initially it's showing like that because I had uncommented already. So the goal here is to uncomment this line, to expose it already. So when we do that, there's another command we want to update, and here the next thing after we do this is to add a certain list of commands. We need to expose our users. So we are still in the so we want to expose these commands. Sorry, my keyboard is disturbing. So okay, no problem, I will keep trying. So I want to okay, since my up and down keys are not functioning properly, so what I want to do is I want to add user privilege rules. So remember we're editing the sudo file. So we had 3 user privilege rules. So we want to add the different privileges. So we want that Lionel should have all access to all. You can see. Oh, remember one thing, be careful. What we need to be doing is a tab, not space. So when you type Lionel as the first user, you press the tab. You want Lionel to have access to all. Sorry, be careful not to make a mistake. To all like that. Remember, it's tab again. Are you seeing? Lionel, tab, all, tab, all. Next person is Caitlin, tab, no space, all. But take note, there's a restriction. So we want him to access system, CTL, status. Remember, is tab. Okay, it's a command, it's not tab. Status is, so we have that for that user. So the next person is Maggie. Remember, the goal here was to assign different privilege levels. So we have all, we have storage. So when we add that, okay, we can now send this to the next line. So when we've added this, for example, we want to save the changes we have done. We press escape. When you press escape, you press shift colon, you type WQ. It writes, W stands for write and quit. So with that, we have successfully added the user privilege rules to our sudo file. Okay, we just run those commands, and just to make sure, sorry, this guy keeps misbehaving. By sudo, just to make sure I explain what we did again. So this last line of commands that we did, like remember I said the idea was to assign different privilege levels. Okay, so on Lionel, we've assigned him full root privileges. It's equivalent to being a full admin on our system. Okay, so that's what it means. So, and another thing we are doing is uh, for Caitlin, we've assigned only a specific command with sudo, and that is to know the status of SSH service in our system. So when Caitlin is using sudo, when she's using sudo, no matter what she does, apply sudo, it will not work except this, yes, to check the status of the SSH service. Yes, that's the least privilege that has been given to her. So, and now Maggie as well has been assigned a storage, a storage, yes, a storage, and remember we defined this previously. We defined the storage previously. We uncommented this previously, and so Maggie has the privilege to manipulate that using the sudo. Yes, using the sudo. So that's the only commands or set of command that Maggie has access to at any point in time. So, and that's the concept of assigning privileges, different privilege levels to users. So let us go forward to the next thing you're going to be seeing. And the next thing will be we're going to use the SU to log into different user accounts. That's first logging into the Lionel's account. I'm actually reading out the instructions. And verify that he has full sudo privileges by running several root commands. All right, great. Great. So to quit this, we do quit like that. So great. What we are going to be doing here is, since we have created different users, assign them password, assign them different privilege levels. So the idea is we want to log into Lionel and to make sure that he has the privileges that we have assigned to him and not more than that. So follow me. Let's go on with that. Okay, great. So we want to access Lionel, right? You can say sudo su Lionel. Yes, Lionel. So you have assigned Lionel. So we can do sudo system ctl status ssh t. Okay, the password for Lionel. Great. Okay, we logged into the Lionel's account, and the goal was, remember, we assigned Lionel all the privileges, root privileges. So it's literally an admin with full access to everything on our system. So when we log into Lionel, we wanted to test if the configurations we did actually worked. So what we just did was we ran this command sudo system ctl status ssd, and he asked us for Lionel's passwords. When we provided it, it told us there's open SSH daemon running a soso port, and it has a soso ID. This the memory is occupying, and so on. So Lionel has access to this information because he has full privileges. Remember, Caitlin was only access one privilege. Anyway, when we get there, we are going to determine that. So we can try other things. Remember, it's sudo. We do sudo fdisk. This is a storage command. Missing something. Let me just go to another one. Sudo su. Lionel has access to that as well. And I type exit. We have access to that. So we can, Lionel has totally access to every command so far as a root user. So that is a peculiarity of what Lionel has. Now, when we are studying other users, we're going to discover that they have different privileges. Okay, so let me test another last command for this. So sudo fdisk, this is storage command. So it tells us, it gives us information about our storage system and so on. So Lionel, being a user with full admin privileges, can have information about all of these things. So that's fine. So now let's log out of Lionel. We have logged out of Lionel using the exit. Okay, so now we want to log in to another user, that is Caitlin. That was the second user. So here's Caitlin. So if we do su Caitlin, they ask for a password. We are logged into Caitlin as well. So we do sudo su. We provide Caitlin's password. Great. You see, sorry, user Caitlin is not allowed to execute that command, the su command, as root on VBox. Did you notice that? So that was what we just did. We configured what Lionel could have access to and what Caitlin could have access to. Now let us try the second command now. Remember, there was a certain command we gave access to Caitlin. We do now sudo system ctl status sshd. We provide the read. We have information about that, because remember, that was what we assigned to Caitlin. That's what she's able to have access to. That's the resource she's able to have access to at the specific moment. So that is very important. So now let's go to another thing and see if she'll be able to have access to another command. Sudo system ctl restart sshd. They say Caitlin is not allowed to execute. So Caitlin is not allowed to restart SSHD service. She's only allowed to check the status of SSL status. So sorry. So now let's find another command. Sudo fdisk, a memory command. Caitlin is still not allowed to do anything, to view any information about the memory in our system. How good is this? So basically, we have stratified users and we've given them privileges to do just certain things, and without those privileges they can do nothing. So it's very important. So let's go to the next user. Let's log out. We have logged out of Caitlin. Now we want to log into Maggie. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So so okay, sure, you made a mistake in password. Okay, we've logged into Maggie. Right. Now remember, we also configure Maggie to have just some certain privileges. So let's find out what Maggie has access to. So let's discover what Maggie had access to. So basically, let's run the same commands that we did for Caitlin. So we say sudo su. We provide a password for Maggie. We are told Maggie is not allowed to execute the su command as root. Great. That's the first one. The second one was what? Sudo systemctl status sshd. Maggie is not allowed to view the status of the SSH service on the system. There's another one, sudo systemctl restart sshd. Maggie is not allowed, you can guess that, it's not allowed to restart any service. But be careful, Maggie is allowed to have information about the storage in our system. Remember, that was what was configured at the beginning when we were setting user rules, privilege rules. So it all makes sense. So with our current system now, right now, there's no way Maggie can do anything otherwise than to view this information. It might not make sense now, but in large organizations, users are assigned to perform specific tasks, to have access to specific resources. And without a system like this in place, without an identity and access control management system like this, users will have access to everything. And because of that, users are prone. And first of all, you don't trust users. So they are prone to do things in the system that will jeopardize the integrity of your information system. So while we continue, stay tuned. Okay, so the next instruction we had was to set more users for this lab by setting them up in user aliases or Linux groups. So the concept of group is to bring together users with similar privileges, right? So for example, let's look at our users. Lionel had admin users. We cannot group Lionel and Kate nor Maggie. So I think Lionel is on his own category on his own. So let's pick, for example, Maggie, and let's say have Maggie. Let's have Maggie to remember all of that happens in vi sudo. Yes. Okay, we want to add more users under a certain category. So now what I'll do is, remember, we do our insert. So what I'll do is I'll define a user alias. Yes, I'll define a user alias called user alias remember it's a tab, storage users. Excuse me. User alias storage users. I'll take Maggie as one. I'll add John. And so on. So I think before we do this, I'll create these users manually first. So I'll create these users manually before we come here and do this configuration. Before we come here and do this configuration, escape. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so we first of all create our users manually. So we have sudo user add. So we want, let's say, 2 more users. So I'll call him John. I'll say sudo user add. I'll call this man Jane. So great. Now after adding the users, now let me just go ahead and assign them password John. Assign him a password called something. Okay. Same for Jane. So I've successfully added 2 users, and from there I have assigned them password. So the next thing now will also be, in fact, to do the same procedure like we did. Okay, so you have created more users. Instead of doing what we did before, to go in the sudo house file and configure for John and Jane, what we are going to do now is rather group them in a user alias. So that is the idea about this. So I'm going to group Maggie, John, and Jane into a user alias and assign them a certain privilege. Okay, so let's get to that. That's what we are doing. Sorry for that, my machine keeps as a sudo v sudo. So we'll go, remember to press insert. We have insert. So also add a user alias. All right, I'll call it storage users. Call it, assign it to Maggie, John, and Jane. Maggie, John, and Jane. And that's not all. I will see storage users. Users. We have all storage. Remember there was a similar user that we did that was Maggie. I feel like something is wrong. Okay, great. Seen a hack. Great. That's what I was seeing as a mistake there. So awesome. So I've assigned to this group, to this alias group, the storage privilege. So I can save that successfully. I can save that successfully and move forward. So since we have done that, let us save our work. We save our work. Remember the rules: we press escape, shift colon. Since we write and we quit. When we do that, it's fine, it's not through any error. So now let us log into a certain users. Let's go to Maggie first, as we did before. So we know that Maggie could only have access to certain. Yes, we know that Maggie could only have access to certain system commands, which was the memory or the storage. It works. So when we try to open another command, it refuses. So because of that, so it's fine. It still works previously as we had configured. So now let's test out John. These are new users that we have created and we have assigned them to a certain group instead of configuring them one by one. That's the advantage of group. So if we check out John, remember we assigned John to that same group. On John we say sudo fdisk l. We have information about our storage quite alright because that was configured. But if we say sudo su, we hear John is not allowed to execute that. So we try another thing, sudo systemctl status sshd. We get the same problem. So we are shown now that John can only access the storage service or the storage resource on this information system. So now let's log in into the Jane, which I'm very sure if it worked for John, it will work for Jane. So you see sudo su, we receive the message, sorry, Jane is not allowed to execute the su as root on this virtual machine. But with this, if you do sudo disk, Jane is fully able to access this resource. So this is the advantage of setting different privilege levels, and most importantly also following the principle of least privilege. Least privileges where there are some users that can have just a single privilege to do a particular thing, and other than that they can do nothing, they are blocked. So it's important in a large information system that users must have controlled accounts where they have been granted certain privileges to do certain things at certain times. So for this session, I think if we got the concepts, it will really be a great thing. And like I said at the beginning, this is very vital in information security and cyber security altogether, where in an information system we need to secure uh, users or the information systems against unauthorized access, against privilege escalations, against external attacks. Yes, to ensure that users do not have uh, more resources than they need. Yes, everybody is not just having access to everything. Yes, only certain users with certain responsibilities have access to certain resources, and that is very important. So, and we can only achieve this thanks to the concepts in identity and access management. And so far, I'm looking forward to have you in the next session of our lessons. God bless you. Have a nice time.